I've only had two coffees today. It's only been two.
Two coffees.
Only had
That's very low for
That's
you.
very low. By this point, I would have had probably my third by now. So I'm on the model diet. Like I'm
Oh,
on the model diet, as you can tell from my like sharp jawline. It's from coffee and steaks.
just coffee. What do they say? Coffee, cigarettes, and an apple, I think is what it was, right?
Is that what it is? Okay, I think
Yeah.
that's the part I'm missing. I've been eating oranges. I actually like the. I, I actually like maybe it's too much acid. Like I like the little taste. My
Mm.
favorite are. Do you know what those? Do you know what cuties are? Those little like.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are my favorite. I could like down a whole bag of those. I have so much vitamin C. I'm like I put
You could go to you could go to sea, no problem, you know.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean that the C in RC stands for vitamin C. I just want to let okay, that's what it stands for. Hey
Stands for
Carl.
cutie.
Yeah, no, it's a lot. Like I'm actually okay with like um the same food. I'm not one of those
Mhm.
people who can like eat the same thing all the time.
Mhm.
It's like if it's like chicken salad or whatever, I can eat that for like 3 months straight. I'm
Mhm.
very like very boring when it comes to that kind of stuff. I don't need actually boring is not the right word. I am very low maintenance when it comes to
Mm.
that stuff. I may be high maintenance with other things, but with this, I'm not high maintenance. Okay. So just I'm just letting you know. Just letting you know.
Okay.
So I can eat whatever. How about you? What's your food of choice this week? I hear you make a mean baked potato.
I don't know. You're so fixated on it.
On your baked
I
potato?
yes, you've
Can I
mentioned it
can I
like 8
oh,
times.
okay, can I tell you why? Can I tell you
Why?
okay. Because it's very cozy core and
Mm.
it's very like I can picture it in like Miyazaki food.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
when you make I imagine when Ella makes a baked potato, it looks like Miyazaki made it, like drew it. Like I imagine it
Oh,
without a that's what I'm saying. It's like it's something to strive for, you know? So
yeah. I've been I My food of choice is pizza. I love pizza. I love like a margarita pizza. That's my favorite.
oh, margarita pizza. Oh, okay. Me, veggie pizza with extra mushrooms. Are you a mushroom person?
I like mushrooms. Yeah, I do. I do like
I
mushrooms.
know that's like a dividing point for a lot of people. Out like is mushrooms. Some people hate it. Like I
Well,
can totally.
I'm like a forest fairy, you know, so I'm like anything like, green and naturey. I'm like, oh yeah, I really like that. You know, if it's
Like,
been in
would
the
you?
dirt,
So would you make like an acorn pudding or something? Is that something
absolutely.
you would?
Yes.
Okay, okay,
Yes.
all right. I think that's pretty adorable.
You open up like a fantasy cookbook, you know what I mean? And you're like, ooh, like dew and mushroom stew. I'm like, that sounds so good. I'm like, that's the food of my people.
Yeah, I like whenever I see like dandelions and stuff like that.
Yes. I'm
Um,
like, that's me.
it's pretty adorable, pretty cute. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Yeah, Carl. Everyone I think gets fixated on potatoes at one point. This happens to be the point in my life where I got because Ella has introduced me to this cozy core baked potato. I need to draw an Ella baked potato, like how I see it in my head, and you may be like, it looks nothing like that. But I want you to let me have this. Just let me have this. This head
I
canon about you.
I want to be as adorable as you think that I am. So,
You I don't think it's going to take much work. I think you are
mm.
just like the queen of cozy core and it works out just fine. So, what's your head canon about me? What's your head canon about me? Something nice. Something nice.
I think my headcanon about you, and maybe it's just because it's Flux Destiny, but I think that you make like amazing like ramen, like instant ramen. Like somehow you make it like so good. You know, like the movie Ponyo, and like she like puts the ham and the like hard boiled eggs and stuff in there, and then like she reveals it. You know what I'm talking about? That moment.
Okay. I can tell you that your head canon is true.
Yes.
because ramen, instant ramen, is one of like
Mhm.
3 or 4 things I can make. I told you I make amazing breakfast tacos. I make
Uh-huh.
amazing hamburgers.
Mhm.
I make amazing. What was it? There was something else I said. Oh, like
Salmon.
salmon. My salmon
Yeah.
is like, it's amazing. The rice and beans I make, I know exactly how
Yeah.
to make rice in a way that
Yeah.
it's like they're like pillowy, like
Oh,
pillowy
that's the
rice.
best.
All right,
Yeah.
all right. Bro can make like pillowy rice. Okay, my rice is amazing. But the what do you call it? The ramen. All
Mhm.
right, get out of the way. Like when I make ramen, it's like, and the secret to ramen, and some people may like disagree, but this is my style of ramen. You have to let
Mm.
it boil longer so it
Mm.
absorbs more water. I think that the secret to the ramen, I like my food pillowy, right?
Soft enough for grandma to
Soft
eat.
and pillowy and like my ramen, if you were to eat my ramen, it's like double the size of normal ramen because I cook it longer and it absorbs more water and it's
Uh-huh.
very noodly and like so,
Yeah.
but it's very delicious and the stuff I'll put in there. So headcanon confirmed. I'm just letting you know.
I think that you have to be, if you create a universe that's main fast food is noodles. I think that you just like have to, be really good at it. Like it must come from deep within yourself, you
It
know?
absolutely has to. It absolutely has to. So I am Ella. I am 100% authentic. Everything about me is authentic. Okay, even my food and
Yeah.
I just it's super authenticity. I just want you to know this. Anyway, good morning, everyone. We were just giving
Everybody
you guys
joining
a
the
second.
chat is like, what are they talking
What are they
about? What's
talking about?
going
We're giving
on?
everyone a second to warm up and come in, and
It's early. It's
it's
lunchtime.
early.
We're hungry.
It's
I hope you guys
Monday.
are eating. It's Monday.
It's Monday. Um, yeah, we were just kind of. I'm already starting to get hungry. Although right now I need to probably make, like, you know what? Okay, last thing. I'll say this and I'll shut up. Right, we'll move on to business. Oatmeal. I make pretty good oatmeal. Okay, my
Yeah.
oatmeal's pretty good. Like I
Mhm.
will make oatmeal. Again, it's the water content that's really important because it has to be pillowy oatmeal, and it's also, but not pillowy like it's gross. Like it's not like you're eating
Right.
like one of those memory pillows. That's not what I mean.
Right. No, no, no.
There's a consistency to it, and then what I do is like I just blast it with fruit. Like there's like I love like what are those called? Blueberries and strawberries. Like
What are
I'll
they
cut them
called?
a certain way. Yeah, and I'll cut bananas and put. It's like
Uh-huh.
you won't have to eat ever again, like the whole day
Oh.
after you've had my my oatmeal. So, anyways, just saying, just sharing. All right, so good to see everyone. It's day 2, the last day of our little mini con that we do monthly. I heard yesterday that you guys had a lot of fun in the mixer. I heard it was a big blowout mixer in the server. That was awesome. If you're new here, I'm RC Helix. I'm the creator of Flux Destiny. This is my right hand, Ella, who is everything Flux Destiny and Flux Fantasy, and she built the mechanics for the game and writes our stories for the games. And today we're going to be talking about on day 2. In this session, we're going to talk about powers. And then Ella, do you want to give them the rest of the day what's happening just so they know, and then we can.
Yeah, I'd love to. So tonight at 5 p.m. Central, we're doing another mixer. And then at 6:30 Central, so just an hour and a half later, we're doing like our Flux Destiny updates, which is like all things that we're going to do this week and any new stuff that we've got going on, which we always do. We always have something new going on. And then right after that, at 7 p.m. Central, we're doing our Flux Destiny like mini game demo. And what we're gonna do is RC and I are gonna play the one shot game, just a small piece of it. For those of you who haven't seen it, he's gonna play as Hugo, and I'm gonna narrate him through it, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. So those are the events. Mixer at 5, then at 6:30 we've got Flux Destiny updates. That's going to be both of those, the mixer and the updates are going to be in the Discord, and then back here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central for the last event. It's so sad it's already here. I've been
It was
spoiled by the week long. you
I
know,
know, I
event.
know. The week longs were really, they felt like it was odd because they felt like, I feel like we accomplished, I wanted it to feel like a real con, like online,
Hmm.
and it felt that way. You had like that it's wrapping up feeling, and it was just sad.
Hmm.
You know, you spend all this time with everyone and you feel good about it. And so it just, you know, it's bittersweet, bittersweet.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about powers. And so Ella, you know, how do you want to start with this one?
So, how I thought that we would start is just sort of going through the four main specialties that you can play in Flux Fantasy. And this is good for anybody trying to learn about the world or create new characters. I know a lot of people here already have OCs, which is amazing, but sometimes you want to branch out and you want to make new characters. So there are four different types of specialties, and each of these specialties, they all use karmistry, but they all use karmistry a little bit differently. So RC, why don't you explain escape artists, and then I'll explain kind of the other three, and we'll just kind of explain how they use karmistry, how they use their Tauruses, and then we'll kind of break into their subgroups.
Sure.
Um, yeah,
So I'm gonna switch screens here and take us over to our core rule book for our Flux Fantasy RPG, and then there's some great material in there that you'll see me and Ella up in the corner, hopefully when I switch over. So we'll have some visuals.
we'll disappear forever.
All right, let's see if this works. Okay, there you are. I got you in there. Okay, so
Yay!
this is the Flux Fantasy core rulebook. If you are not familiar with it, or if you don't have it yet, there's the links down below. When you buy this, which is the core rulebook, you actually get not only it's over 300 pages. It has, but don't let that intimidate you. As I've said many times, we've designed it to be you can literally within the first 20 15 20 pages it tells you everything you need to know. The rest of it is really all reference material from the lore to deeper mechanics and a bonus game and a bunch of mini games. So it has so much material packed into it. So if you check out the links below, um, shop.fluxdestiny.com will take you there, and you can buy the core rulebook there. You'll get a free game pass to Lunar Showdown, which is the game that is preloaded with this book. You'll actually get to play it. You'll actually get a free game night and get to play one of our official game nights on it. So I'd check that out. And then of course our Patreon community. Definitely check it out. We have a really awesome Patreon community. Even the free tier, if you want to just start there, the free tier gets a bunch of stuff, and also gets access to our monthly live streams that we have for our all our Patreon members, including the free tier. So definitely check that out. Okay, so looking at the core rulebook here, I am just gonna zoom down here to let me get here to the overview of the different types. And there's this. What's cool about this core rulebook is that in the lore section there is this page right here that kind of goes over the different types of people, the different classes that are in Flux Fantasy and the Flux Destiny universe. And you've got escape artists, ink fighters, special agents, and clockbots. So, escape artists, if you're familiar with our universe, Hugo, who's our main character, and Marco, they're escape artists. And they are the ones who are able to manipulate karmistry directly. Unlike all the other classes, they specifically directly control karmistry, which is our unique magic system. And they use their Taurus, which is a ring. Depending on the type of escape artist you are, you have a large ring, or Taurus is what we call it, and it's a golden ring. Um, they use their Taurus to siphon karma from the environment and then do all sorts of incredible feats. It depends on what kind of escape artist you are, right? Like you can be a creative escape artist, a clockwork escape artist, like one that deals with like physics and fundamental forces. Uh, Biochemistry escape artist who deals with elemental flora and fauna. Body modification. There's all sorts of. It's the biggest of all of them.
Mm.
There's machine karmistry, where escape artists who specialize in building machines and robots and vehicles that are powered by karmistry, or they're able to construct and summon karmistry constructs. That's another side. And then the final type is quantum karmistry escape artists. And these are the ones who kind of go into the experimental realm of karmistry and actually dabble in a lot of like esoteric stuff, like astral projection, mind control, things like that. Is what the quantum karmistry escape artists focus on. Do you want to take ink fighters?
Yeah, I'd love to. So all types of karmistry need a torus. It just sort of depends on where the torus is used. You have to have a torus and able to perform karmistry. Now, with ink fighters, they use their torus. There's somebody called an ink artist, and they use these special tattooing machines that are filled with toruses, and it sucks the karma from the person receiving the sigil, which is like, sigils are basically like their tattoos. And it basically stores karma like a battery, right, onto a person's body. But there's still a torus involved, right? So I just want to make that really clear that you have to have a torus and able to perform karmistry. So ink fighters, they kind of get it up front. They use their torus machines to create these like basically temporary powers on their bodies where they can just they use their skills and their abilities to do all kinds of fun things. Now, ink fighters are normally people who like to use their sigils for martial arts or something quick and temporary, because you have to refill them with karma. So you have to refill them using a ink syringe, or go back to the ink artist, which is safer and probably will give you some more power. But the different groups in the ink fighters are, you've got melee ink fighters, which are people who have on their bodies like things like knives or baseball bats or axes or whatever, and so they can use them to throw, or they can form them in their hand and attack. And then you've got projectile, who are people who create guns or slingshots or bows and arrows, and those are people who shoot, stuff across an arena. And then you've got the animal ink fighters, who they can kind of do two different things. They can either summon a full animal, like if they've got a full tattoo of a dog, they can summon the dog to attack with them or for them. And then some have augment abilities, which means that they have, maybe a tiger's claw or hand on their hand, and then when they augment their own body into different animal parts. So there's kind of two parts with animal. Um, and then you've got the body type, which they basically can get armor or shields, or they can enhance their bone structure or their skin structure. So they're kind of like biochemistry users, except theirs is more temporary. So they have to be careful, how long, they use it. And then the last group is the elemental ink fighters, which they're the type who use like the natural forces around them, like fire or water or light or air or whatever it is that they decide to, make sigils of. And they can kind of do the augment part too, like if they want to turn their hand into a fireball or something, or just shoot fire and stuff like that. That is the different group. Those are the different groups of the ink fighters. So they are um, they're really cool. They kind of are different than the escape artists, although that they have, I would argue, sort of similar powers, if you were to just stumble upon the two groups randomly. But escape artists, they have a Taurus on them the full time, so they can keep summoning, different things and items. And the ink fighters are normally more specialized, into one group of people. So that's sort of the difference between the two of them.
Yeah, that's a great overview. And when we go to each one, we'll go back over each one and then like tell you the kind of inspiration for powers that you can get from them for each section. I was just kind of like
Yeah.
scanning through some art here while you were explaining it. Um, let's go to some of the
Do you want to do? You'll do special agents, and I'll talk about clockbots.
sure.
And
Yeah,
then yeah, like you said, we'll go back through and we're for each group we'll give kind of a inspiration for powers.
right. So, special agents are the government's enforcers, and these are the ones who basically keep up with karmistry, like enforce national karmistry laws. Having this kind of like incredible power, being able to perform karmistry, regardless of the type of like karmistry user you are, whether you are an escape artist, ink fighter, etc. It's a very powerful, ability. So obviously, it has to be carefully controlled and regulated. And so the National Karmistry Authority in Fortuna it's basically like their FBI, right? Like it's their big government organization that controls and polices it. Um, they are often armed with karma tech, which is weapons and devices that are meant to that are powered by karmistry that um, are built specifically to deal with people who use karmistry. So they have ways of like disrupting karmistry capabilities of escape artists and the other types. They have ways of tracking them down, like they're finding their karmic signals and traces. They have special like buffering devices and
Mhm.
shield shield generate. Like they have all sorts of stuff that helps them deal with rogue escape artists, especially rogue escape artists who can cause a lot of damage if they're not policed. So oftentimes the NKA also employs escape artists who work for them too. It's not often, you won't see a lot of them that way, but it's they work for them. And there's different types. Once we get to the different types of special agents, you've got all sorts of different types of them that do different functions to help you know keep enforce the law. So that's the special agents.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay, and then the last group that we have currently is the clockbots. Now, clockbots are very unique. They sort of like escape artists. They have special abilities. So the thing too that's interesting about clockbots is they have an integrated torus. So that could be internal or part of their body, but they have to, unlike the other groups who can like leave a torus behind and still function, a clockbot runs off of karma. So their like lifeblood is karmistry. So they're a part machine, part karmistry. So their toruses are like their power source, their life source. So they are using karmistry literally just to function, just to stay, coherent and mobile. And so it's really important for them that they have their torus, and so there are lots of different types of clockbots. There are basically kind of two groups. There are clockbots that are just sort of like worker bots that help out around Fortuna. They're construction workers and house cleaners and cameramen on TV sets and tourist, creation bots and hammers and that kind of stuff. And then there are those and clockbots kind of range in uh, what we call marks, which means that as you go up in marks, the clockbot becomes more intelligent. So a lot of worker bots are going to be like Mark 1. You don't need them to like think to be able to like hammer something. And then as you move up this scale, you get into kind of like these bots who start to kind of function more like humans. They have creativity and thoughts, and their advanced AI helps them like figure out problems. And so that group is sort of more of the playable bots that we have in Flux Fantasy. So those include the K type, which is like a bot that can basically mimic karmistry, just like an escape artist can. So instead of just using their Taurus to function, they use them to attack, to create karmistry constructs, or to help their karmistry buddy. And then you've got the D types, which are decoy bots. Those are like your types who are going to like create decoys, or try to get the attention of payback, or create shields. And then you've got the H types, which are kind of like the military types. We call them heavy bots because they're like really big and they're made for military stuff. And then you've got the M types, which are meant for, they're called medical types, which are meant for helping out in hospitals, or, if you're in in the middle of battle and you need a medical bot. So they use a lot of improv weapons, and but they still know how to fight. And then the last type is sort of this mysterious type. They're called the X type, or the experimental. You see what we did there? It's very clever. The experimental types, and they are sort of like cutting edge. They do stuff that kind of are like research based. Things like, create teleportation, or are exclusive VIP bots. They're made for specific purposes, or they're made to go into dangerous territory, places that like might have nuclear waste and things like that. So they're very experimental, and they're very interesting. So that's the clock bots that are currently playable. There are lots of other clock bots. So there's kind of a big group, but it's good to distinguish between the kinds that are playable in Flux Fantasy and those that are sort of like are mundane, just worker bots. But yeah, so those are the four groups, the four playable specialties, as we call them, because they all use karmistry, just sort of in different ways, and you can tell there's sort of these stark differences between them because of how they use karmistry. Not necessarily because of their powers are different, but because they use karmistry, the way that they draw karma in is different for all of them. So that's why they're so distinct.
That's a really great overview of it. And so what we'll do is we'll go now and look at the different types, and quickly just kind of give you some like inspiration for powers. And then Ella and I were saying, it'd be fun. There's a exercise that we like to do where we take characters from different universes and import them into Flux Destiny and show where they would, what type of character they would be, and then what kind of karma specialty they'd have. And so that's a lot of fun. We always go through that exercise because karmistry was built to be very flexible, to pretty much bring any character from any universe in, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how it's been designed. And and so let's go through some of these real quick. So we'll go. This is in the core rulebook. This is actually the character creator guide. If you don't have this, it's actually free. This part of the book, you can download it from from our Gumroad store. If you go to shop.fluxdestiny.com, you can download the character creator guide for free, and that's it's a pretty big book. It's like 150 pages, I think, of the 100 something pages of the core rulebook is the character creator guide. So it's a pretty cool thing to have. So when we go through the different types, like here we've got escape artists. Um, when you're talking about the different specialties of these, just to be clear, escape artists. We talked about how, okay, so we've already covered this part. So there's the different types: the special agent, the ink fighters. We already went over these, and now we're going to go over the individual types. Sorry, I was trying to get back in line to where we were in discussing these. Okay, so with escape
Yeah, we're in
artists,
the study section.
yeah, we're in the study. So once you have the karma specialty, then you choose your karma study, right? And so
Mhm.
you're if you, let's say you choose an escape artist, then you got to pick the type of escape artist they are, right? And so the character creator guide shares with you the different types. So if you're in creative karmistry, for example, these are the ones that use they use karmistry to bring their ideas to life, especially within Flux Destinies, which if you know anything about the Flux Destiny lore, they are not subject to the rules of payback when you make things within Flux Destiny. So that's where creative karmistry users really shine in there. So they have subclasses, several subclasses: object creation, animation, and transformation, and they can use their powers accordingly, right? So they can bring things to life. They can create objects in Flux Destinies and in the real world as karma constructs. They don't last long
Hmm.
because the payback undertow wipes them away if it's done in the real world. But they are um, basically anything that's like a major, any of the big things like even uh, architects fall into this space, right? So
Hmm.
that's something to think about. Clockwork Karmistry. So creative Karmistry is what Marco, if you know our characters from our series, Marco, who's one of our two main characters, he specializes in creative Karmistry. Clockwork Karmistry, which Hugo, our other main character, specializes in. These are the engineers and tinkers of the universe. They have a deep understanding of the fundamental forces that control the world and Flux Destiny. So they know how to manipulate matter and energy, and they have specific areas of control that they focus over, which are like, mechanics, which is mechanics. I mean, like physics specifically,
Hmm.
like fundamental, mechanics of the universe, energy control, and forces control. So they are they actually, of the different types, have the largest toruses. That's why they have these giant taurus. Like when you see Hugo with his big taurus on his chest, it's because the amount of karma required to perform, like when you're changing gravity, for example, or bending space time or whatever. These require large amounts of karma to do that. So clockwork karmistry users have uh, denser and larger toruses than the others, typically. When we get into biochemistry, so biochemistry escape artists, they focus on like living pretty much everything having to do with life, whether it's you know there's several different spheres of practice. So they can manipulate natural and biological processes. They can create realistic looking flora and fauna. They can heal plants and animals and people. And so it's a broad range. I mentioned a lot that it's really the biggest of all the studies. Um, and it's broken into several types of expertise. There's what we call like different spheres of practice. There's the biosphere, the geosphere, which has to deal with like um, elemental subjects. Hydrosphere, so those who specialize in water. Atmosphere, with weather in particular and air. And pyrosphere, so those who manage fire and ignition. So they cover like a wide spectrum of natural studies. Then the last two are machine karmistry. Like I mentioned earlier, they're the ones who use their technique to create clock bots and all sorts of other devices. What makes them really unique is that the type of payback that machine karmistry escape artists get is very different than the others because it's normally contained to their creations. And
Hmm.
so whether their creations malfunction or explode or whatever the case may be, their payback is it's not exclusive. That's not like, but typically manifests in their creations. And so there's different types. You have mechanization, cybernetics, energy, computer technology. These are their areas of focus. And then the last one for the escape artists is quantum karmistry. Um, like we said, they're the ones who are the experimental cutting edge guys, right? So they it's like a mix of like ancient and forward looking, like futuristic things that they are really
Hmm.
trying to push the boundaries of karmistry. So mind control, telekinesis, reality warping, like they do a lot of things with that. Um, they often get the most dangerous kind of payback because they're the ones pushing the rules the most. And so And it's also quantum chemistry is highly regulated within Fortuna in particular. So it's actually the small in terms of like if you were to look at the population of escape artists, quantum escape artists are actually the smallest because you to practice that kind of chemistry, you have to go through all these hoops to get that. And
Hmm.
if you go to an academy like Wolfgang, Chemistry Academy, the quantum chemistry school is minuscule compared to the others. And so there's um, I think we were estimating that Wolfgang probably has about 8,000 students,
Yeah.
and maybe 800 of maybe like at
Oh
max
yeah,
like
way
and
like
that's
yeah,
like that's a
probably
lot.
way less.
I would
Probably
say
like
maybe
what 100?
maybe 100
Like
students, maybe
yeah,
100 students are doing that. So it's important to kind of get an idea of like the scale of quantum chemistry. Um, it's and if especially if you're creating a character in quantum chemistry, a lot of people get excited and they see that and they're like, "Oh, that sounds cool. I want to create a character." And that's totally cool. But you have to, but also keep in mind that they're relatively rare in Fortuna, and they have all sorts of like hoops they've got to like they've got their own dangers and issues they have to deal with. So I just want to make that clear because a lot of people hear that they're like, "Oh, I want to be quantum chemistry," and that's great. There's just an extra step of character creation you have to do to make sure that it fits canonically with things, right? It's not like you're
right.
going to be, seeing quantum. It's a quite rare occurrence to see one. So, in
In
fact,
fact,
let me just say this last thing. In fact, at Wolfgang, the quantum chemistry school is actually underground.
mhm,
Like it's so, and the entrance to it is like this, unassuming entrance that you get into, where the others are all above ground and giant and really just like overshadowing. You might miss where the quantum chemistry school is. So sorry, Ella, what
yeah.
were you gonna say?
No, I was going to say if you're thinking about making a quantum chemistry user, there's actually a lot of times a misconception. Somebody will come to me with a quantum chemistry user, and actually their powers fit into something else, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's, oh, I want a space person and they're using quantum. Well, space is technically clockwork chemistry, right? So you've got, unless you're doing something that doesn't exist, right? Like, oh, I want to create new planets. Well, maybe, but still, that might fit better into clockwork. Um, I will say that. So when you're thinking about making a quantum person, think: does this power fit in another place? And if it does, then it probably should fit in that other place because that's sort of where canonically it would go. And I've got one more thing to say. I get this question a lot, and RC, you can let me know if I'm wrong. But there's a lot of talk. A lot of these groups sometimes they'll overlap each other. So you have to just kind of think what's best for you and your character, right? So there's a lot of talk about mind manipulation and emotional manipulation, and technically, we like to think of that as something that quantum users do. But it also could fall under biochemistry because it's a natural occurrence. So it just sort of depends on what it's being used for. If you're trying to help people, return their memories to them, that might fall into biochemistry. If you're trying to manipulate somebody into being a zombie for you, that's probably something that falls into quantum. And so you have to just kind of use your best judgment. We might not give you all of the rules for chemistry, but we have a lot of them. So you should just think about what is best for your character. And of course, you can always ask us if you have a question. So,
No,
uh,
and to confirm what you said, that's a really great way to parse through it. Is that um, if you're like someone who special like a therapist, for example, right? Like you're an
mhm,
escape artist who's a therapist or a psychologist, and you're learning chemistry for that purpose, you're going to be in biochemistry, right? Quantum chemistry, mind control, and things like. And you have to understand that there are laws about mind control. You can't just go like mind controlling people, right, without their consent. That's actually against the law in Fortuna, and so that's one of the reasons why, for obvious reasons, right? That would be very dangerous. Like you mind control certain people or like government officials or things like that. That would be a very serious problem. The good thing is that
mhm.
the good thing that kind of there's a natural control of that, which is there's a lot of like major payback that comes as a result of doing that kind of very powerful karmistry. But
Hmm.
she really drew a really great distinction there between quantum and bio when it comes to those kind of functions. That basically stuff that is more healthy and therapeutic and about the body functions is more in like in the bio area, and stuff that is more manipulative would fall into the quantum area, right? And the same
Yeah.
with clockwork. There, like she was saying earlier, there's a lot of people who confuse the two, where there's a lot of overlap between clockwork and quantum.
Hmm.
And I would say that um, when you really start pushing the rules of clockwork karmistry is when you start falling into the quantum side.
Agreed.
So, just let me just take a couple quick questions here. I see. It is ironic, isn't it, Carl, that like despite being the smallest, it's the most popular. I think it's just because it's kind of like edgy and cool, right? It's just it makes for fun character creation because, um, of all the dangerous stuff that can happen with it, and also its name is also helpful. But I think if you look at any of the other classes, you can see that with any of them, you could create really cool, edgy characters too if you wanted to go that way. So I think it's just a lot of people instantly see that and they say, "Oh, I can make this cool, like edgy, dark character using quantum karmistry." You could do that with any of them, actually.
Yeah, and
So
quantum, you have to think they're probably mostly very nerdy. That there's probably some who are dark, who are using it in nefarious ways, or trying to bring back the dead or whatever. But at the same time, they're also trying to research things. They're probably covered in books, haven't slept in a while, and are
right.
researching ancient languages. And maybe that's a way that you can use quantum karmistry, is to try to understand old languages. And that's not edgy. That's just you're a history buff,
That's
so
right. Yeah.
sometimes there's kind of a misconception that quantum are all these like emo dark, and sometimes it's just somebody who really is trying to learn more about mythology, and it's like mythology sort of fits into quantum karmistry. So
or
um,
really esoteric kind of stuff, like
right, yeah.
the occult and things like that. Obviously, those that kind of falls into there too. So a couple of other questions. Ray is asking if quantum escape artists only study in one field, or can they mix the three fields? You can. So once you're in one of your studies, you pick quantum or whatever, you can absolutely mix and match and do things within it. Obviously, you have to kind of think about, there's two things that I always advise when you're creating a character is that be realistic in terms of like, okay, it's very tempting if you're going to create a, like, it's, you want to avoid becoming like a Mary Sue kind of character, right? Where suddenly you can do everything and it's like, oh, I can do all these things. I'm a doctor and I'm a lawyer and I'm an engineer
Hmm.
and I'm this. So it's more fun to like when you create a character to have them specialize in one particular area and build around that. It doesn't mean you can't. It just means that you have to think about the reality of them being able to do so many different things, right? Then you kind of border into like Mary Sue territory where you've got this like character who's like OP'd and can do all this stuff. So just keep that in mind with it. Let's
Yeah,
see.
that's a great point, and it's something that I tell people a lot too. That's a very common question. Can I learn more than one skill? What I always advise people is the more you know, the less powerful you are, because karmistry is not just the size of the torus. It's also about your skill, and that's across all of the studies. That's special agents, ink fighters, clockbox. It's escape artists too. It's all of them. So if I am somebody who is trying to learn something and be as powerful as I can, and I learn 40 different skills, right? I'm not going to be as powerful as somebody who just learned one skill and was very good at it. So I always advise people to theme your characters around a specific power. Like if you want to have a mind control character, then have all of your powers, or at least most of them, be within that realm. If you have a character who's in quantum, who's I do teleportation and mind control and I can read minds and I can mimic powers. It's suddenly like, well, then you're not very powerful then, because you can only do a little bit of everything,
You're
right?
like a jack of all trades and a master of
Right.
none kind of situation.
Exactly. So I always advise people, if you're going to create a character in a specific group, to go all in with it. If you're going to have a mind control character, have all of your attacks and all of your stuff be mind control based. Like, okay, my defense, my attack is that I get my army to attack people. My defense is that my army crowds around me. My combo is I use all my minions to like create this giant wall, like whatever it is, kind of theme your powers around one group, because then it will be better for you to create a character because you've got something to focus on. If you have all of these different powers, it's like, well, why did you learn all of them? What's the purpose, right? Why would you learn all of them? So if you want to be somebody who's like a very powerful escape artist, that would be what I suggest.
Right. So I think so that covers all of them. That covers everything for escape artists. A lot of great opportunities there to create characters. I you know I think if I were in this universe, I would be an escape artist. That's my. I think Ella, you would be an ink fighter. Is that what you said you'd be? Is that your preferred
I
type?
think I I like ink fighters. I think I would be a escape artist.
You'd be an escape
If
artist.
yeah,
Okay,
I
so
would be creative probably.
creative. All right, so we're moving now into ink fighters. So
Yeah,
now I know you particularly love ink fighters, so
I do.
we can kind of go through those. So I have up on the screen kind of the different types of studies of those. So there's like what, 5 or 6 of these.
Yeah, so
Uh,
there's 5 studies in each group. I kind of went through them already, so I'll just go through them quickly again. You've got the melee people who they all of these are like inked onto their bodies. So you've got somebody who can use knives, use swords, create bats, create axes. Anything that you want that's basically like a weapon that you can hold in your hand. That's what the melee weapon people are for. There are some. It's basically the easiest form of ink fighting that you can do. If you can create a weapon that you hold in your hand that you like physically use, then that's the one for you. And projectile is sort of is the is the opposite of that, which is anything that you could throw or shoot. That's what you would have inked on your body. Those are the melee and the projectile people are normally those who are going to be like your run of the mill thugs. People who are standing outside of the bars, who are protecting people like VIPs, stuff like that. Because it's pretty basic. It's exactly what it says it is. If you've got a gun inked on your side, then when you use your sigil, it's a gun. And that's
well,
pretty
and
much what it is.
to add to that, it's these particular types, and as you when you look at the different like specializations for each one and what they're capable of doing, a lot of these can also become like she was saying, bodyguards. They serve in the military too, for
Mm-hmm.
obvious reasons. This girl right here, you see this ink fighter girl here, you can see her sigil coming to life as flames. You can see how these particular powers can be used in military purposes or in um, defense, whatever the case may be. And the reason is that it's technically easier to become an ink fighter than it is an escape artist, because you don't have to actually know karmistry the way that escape artists have to know it, because they're like literally doing it, and ink fighters know how to make their sigils do what they want it to do, right? They control their sigils.
Yeah.
And so that's the difference. And there's actually a rivalry between the two groups, because escape artists think ink fighters are just doing push button karmistry, and ink fighters think escape artists are just arrogant asses, right? So they won't do. There's just this rivalry between the two types. Okay, so we're moving down here to
Exactly.
animal and body.
Um,
You covered those already.
no. So animal, again, like I said, there's sort of two parts to animal ink fighting. There's the augmenting part, which is like if I were to make to ink fangs onto my face, then when I go to, bite somebody, I'm going to use like tiger fangs or snake fangs or something like that. And then you've got kind of the other part of it, which is if you get a sigil of a dragon or something like that on your body, and then you use it and it comes to life, it can fight for you, and help you and protect you and all kinds of stuff like that. And so those are the two sort of types of animal ink fighting. It should be known, especially with animal ink fighting, but all of the types. The more detailed and big your sigil is, the more powerful it's going to be. Ink fighting is often referred to, as RC says, as like push button karmistry. But to even get a sigil is very difficult because they're painful. You're basically becoming a living battery, for whatever this power is, and it's hard to control sometimes. So if I was 10 years old and I got a huge dragon tattoo, on my body, and it came to life, it's probably going to turn against me because I don't have any control over it. I don't know how to use it properly. So it's very difficult, to do. So as ink fighters get older, they're normally going to start with something simple, and then build on top of their sigils, adding color and different types of sigils, and to kind of like, okay, now I want my dragon to be a fire dragon, so I'm going to now add flames to my sigils, right? So it happens across all of them, but I specifically wanted to mention it in this animal section. Um,
Okay.
so,
R-
and then, yeah, yeah.
Oh, I was going to say real quick for anyone who just happens to be joining us, welcome. We've been kind of just like geeking out over this, and we just want to take a quick second to say hi to anyone new who happens to be in the crowd watching. Be sure to check in the description of the YouTube of this video. There is a link to our Discord server that is normally not open unless you've like made a purchase. It's open during this our mini con, so you can come in and you can stay in if you come in now. So if you haven't already, now is a good time to come join the community. So you can check the description there, and you can also check out. I know it's kind of hard to see because of the text, but you can see below. Patreon.com/Flux Destiny is our Patreon community, and you can also download this character creation guide that I'm going through right now for free at our Gumroad shop, which is shop.fluxdestiny.com. Go download this, and you can have all this information with you. This is actually part of the core rulebook. So
Mm-hmm.
if you end up buying the core rulebook, you get this plus everything else on top of it. But this is something to check out. Okay, so
And I
go ahead.
wanted to say real quick, I just put it in the chat. Tonight we're playing a demo of the one player game that we've got. You can play it at any point, but if you want to play along with us, or you want to get ahead and see all of the secrets before tonight, now's your chance to do it because we're going to be live in just a couple of hours. So now's the time. So I just want to put that out there.
Cool. And actually, just a bit, we're going to create a character, as I was mentioning at the beginning. I see that Alan came in. It's good to see you, Alan. We're going to actually be showing Alan's character sheet in a few minutes because we're going to create a character and do it within the character sheet. And I'll show you the online version of it, and you guys we'll pick a character and then we'll create them within this. Um,
Cool.
okay.
All right. Back to Ink Fighters. Just two more groups. We've got the body group, which these are like your thugs, right? These are your hard hitters because they're great for bodyguards. Basically, what they do is they will create these huge sigils across their body, which can turn into armor or enhance their bones or skin or make them look a little bit different, and helps with their healing. And so these are your types who are just like going to go into the ring and they're going to use their martial arts and they're just going to take you down. It's not necessarily fancy, but it's really subtle, but it's important because, if you get body modifications, you could potentially sneak into places and they might not even know you're an ink fighter. If you got a big dragon sigil, it's probably pretty obvious. So, there's different types for different groups. And then last is probably the flashiest, which is elemental. These are people who are kind of like, if you've ever watched The Last Airbender, they're going to be your bender types. The types that throw raw material around like fire and air and water, and stuff like that. But they can also, they might elemental users might sneak up on you because they might throw in a projectile, or they might bring out a fire sword. So you have to kind of be careful because they are masters of sort of be like improv, and going into these other groups as well. So, and it's something to remember about ink fighters is that if you are like a functioning ink fighter, who's like actively fighting, you're probably going to be like really good at martial arts. So that's just something about them that they like to do. So
Okay. And then we move on to special agents that we kind of went over earlier. Obviously, told you what they are, but there's different types that I'll go through quickly. Like we have the scouts, who are kind of the silent. So we describe them as the silent hunters of the special agents. They are experts in surveillance and recon, and so they love karma tech. They use it a lot to do their spying and their recon work, and they get a lot of the information necessary on people who are breaking karmistry laws, or they're often involved in international spying too. So that's another specialty of these guys. We've got the oops, sorry, I'm moving my mouse on the wrong page here. 1 second. Let me recenter the screen here. Um, Disruptors are the next type. These are the wrecking balls of special agents, as we call them. They have the most you have the most like devastating karma tech weapons. They are built for destruction and can tear through enemy defenses and throw everything into chaos. So these kind of guys are like, they're brutal, they're very powerful. They use very serious karma tech weapons, and usually you're bringing these kind of guys out whenever you are having like, because rogue escape artists can be incredibly dangerous. Like if you can imagine having a rogue karmistry user out there. Sorry, there was a weird sound outside my window. I was like, what? It's like a stork or something was flying up my out my window. It's making this weird noise. um, if you imagine having like a clockwork karmistry like rogue one, they could create a lot of damage, right? And they could
mhm.
a lot of people. So you need sometimes disruptors or to help like bring them down if necessary. Then we've got the bodyguards. Bodyguards are you know built to kind of take hits and dish them out. They use karma powered exoskeletons, and they are really a force to be reckoned with in close combat. Uh,
Mhm.
and they're often used to help shield the team who is, performing like whatever functions there or part of the mission they're trying to accomplish. The bodyguards are the ones who are giving them cover.
Yeah,
Then we
they're
have
normally the one in like armor, so
yeah,
we think about kind of the different groups. Your scouts are using, tech that helps them see. The disruptors are using the big guns. The bodyguards are using the armor, so on and so forth.
exactly. I'm going to answer. Corin asks a question that I think is a good one. Can hydrochemistry escape artists manipulate water like elemental ink fighters? Yes, in fact, more so. Ink fighters who are elemental are they have like let's say they have like they can't they cannot control the elements around them, right? So an ink
Right.
fighter who is a water ink fighter can't pull water out of out of a swimming pool and like throw it around. They can't do that.
Right.
They are manipulating a sigil that is a water sigil, and they can manipulate that. Escape artists who are elemental, they can do, if they saw a pool of water, they could manipulate that. So there's an important distinction, is that with ink fighters, it's all contained within their sigil what they can do. They can't, if you're a fire ink fighter, you can't go and, if there's a fireplace, pull fire from it and manipulate. This doesn't work that way. However, if you're an escape artist,
Yeah.
you can do that. So that's
And
a good question.
but on the other side, it might take a couple of seconds for an escape artist to get going, whereas an ink fighter could probably just shoot their fire right away. you know.
Right, because they've got it already, already queued up, right? So they can do that.
Right.
So, anyways, back to this. Operatives. These are basically like the leaders of uh, the special agents. They're usually the ones who are, you know, setting up the missions, guiding them. They're usually the special agents in charge. They have they're in the game. They come with an extra aura point because of their ability to deal with people.
Yeah, to interrogate, to intimidate, to just be really cool.
Right.
That's sort of their job, is to do that.
And then finally, within the Ink Fighters, excuse me, special agents are the Tinkers, and the Tinkers. Actually, my one of my Flux Fantasy OCs is a Tinker. His name is Wheeler, and he. These are like the tech wizards. These are the ones who like love coming up with new devices and weapons and gadgets. They're the ones who are the hackers. Who are really like key. If you're putting like a team together of special agents, you want to have a tinker on there, right? Because
Mhm.
especially if you're dealing with a rogue escape artist who's like a machine chemistry escape artist, you're going to want to be paired with someone who's a tinker because they'll know how to deal with them, right? Or have technology or come up with things that will help you, karma tech that will help you deal with a very powerful enemy like that. So um, I love that, like the way we've. Oh, oops, sorry, stepped on my my dog's under my desk, and I stepped on him by accident. I didn't know he was there. I was switching my position, and I kind of kicked him by accident. So I didn't know he
Oh,
was.
buddy.
I didn't know he was down there. So sorry, I didn't know you were down there. Um.
Poor
Anyway,
guy.
yeah. Um. So with like the one thing that I really love about the way we've set up everything is that there's very much like a paper rock scissors situation with everything we do. We kind of take different types from different classes. They all have like um, relationships with each other that they can either that they can kind of exploit the weaknesses of the others. It's very much like if you've ever played Mega Man. In Mega Man, like the different robot bosses can like right they have like different effects on the others. It's kind of
Right.
like that. So okay, and that's all that you want to go over the clock bots.
Yeah. Clock bots have a special place in my heart. I think they're often overlooked, which is a shame because they can be really powerful. And so, the first type that we have is the decoys. They're the type who can probably originally came from like military or they're sort of like the bodyguards, where they can distract payback, they can defend other people, they can use shields, they can create decoys, and sometimes they can even mimic certain bodyguard or body type uh, powers that the other groups have. um, and it should be known that most clock bots are sort of paired with somebody, whether that's a special agent or escape artist or an ink fighter, even in a rare case. Clock bots are normally there to help the team, to be a part of the team and help it. It's rare to see an independent clock bot just sort of wandering around without anybody attached to it. So all the types kind of mix with the other types really well. So like maybe you've got a bunch of people on your team who are like medical people. Well, you're going to need a bodyguard, so you're going to want a D type clockbot who can take those hits. And then the next type is the K type, which the K types are sort of this big, it's probably the biggest group of clockbots that are playable. Obviously, if in the unplayable groups, you're going to have the A types, the just assistant type clockbots that are much more prevalent. But when we talk about like the heavy hitter clockbots, the K type is probably the most abundant because they can kind of do anything. They can do machine chemistry or quantum or clockwork, because they kind of can mimic whatever their escape artist friend or special agent friend needs. So okay, well, we've got this group, of people, but we don't have anybody who can hack into anything. Okay, I better grab my K-type, clockbot who can do machine stuff. So they're really just they're all about cooperation. They're all about using karmistry, kind of like an escape artist does. And so they're a very rare group. And then we've got the M types, which are the medical types. The M types can help you with use their karmistry abilities to help with recovery or healing people, or they can also take a lot of hits. If you need somebody who is a kind of a tank and you don't have a decoy or an H type around, they can take hits pretty well because they're the medical type. They can use heightened senses. They're really good at scouting, and being a scout. So they're kind of, as you can tell, the clockbots kind of take in attributes from other groups and kind of mix them together in different ways, which is really fun because if you kind of want a scout that also can do like healing and stuff like that, then the M type is for you. And then we've got the H type, which the H type is the big tanks. So they're the guys who can wield the heavy guns. They are, busting down the front door. They're huge. I mean, they're like ginormous. They can take military orders or give military orders or tactics. They can kind of be like operatives. And they can take a beating because they're ginormous. And then the last group that we have for today is the X type. And the X type is really, the way I like to think about it is, again, kind of like the quantum group. They're very research based. So, dark matter or teleportation or controlling other clock bots or stealth, camouflage, intimidation, those kind of clock bots. They're very, very rare at this stage, and they're also like they're normally privatized. So somebody will a very rich person might request an X type, or they'll probably most likely be found in just research facilities and labs, helping out, going into nuclear waste sites, dealing with stuff that's research based. So yeah.
So just one thing about the X type. So those are the type, just to add one thing to it, is that, and to clarify, is that these are like, these are even more rare than quantum karmistry escape artists. Like these
Yeah.
things are like, these are secret government kind of clock bots, right?
Yeah,
And
like 3 per country.
yeah, like they're not often, but they're very, so you have to keep that in mind. And when you read more about them in the core rulebook, you'll understand why. But they are, while they're powerful in their own right and have their own particular skills, you have to have a story that kind of makes sense for them, right? It's like um, you're not going to be a regular escape artist who has an X type clock bot. It's
Right.
just not going to happen. They're usually, like, think about military. Like, I remember when I was a kid, when the what is it called, the B whatever bomber, the one that looks like a triangle, like that was like
Yeah.
a big deal when it was finally revealed that was it was always like a big deal because we knew we had it, but then they finally started showing pictures of this like amazing the stealth bomber. Like, you have to think of things like that. That's kind of,
Yeah.
the space it falls into. um okay. So that's all of them. That's all the big parts. So I thought it would be fun. We've done this before in other lives, and it's a lot of fun where we take a character and then we put them into Flux Fantasy by finding out, what their study is and all this stuff, and build them out. So I'm gonna share on the screen. I'm gonna share. Let me do this real quick here. Uh, Okay, so here you should see on the screen, we've got this awesome online character builder, and this is totally free. You can go to it if you go to um, charactersheet.fluxfantasy.com. If you hadn't already, if you wouldn't mind putting that in there. This is where you can pull this up, and this is actually the online version of the character sheet, designed by Alan, who we really appreciate. He built this out. It's really awesome, and having it available when you play, because it auto calculates things, and like I'm not going to go over everything in it now because it has all these cool features and you can actually save your character and re-upload them. It's really awesome. So using this, Ella, if you want to like, I don't know how you want to, if you want to take a suggestion from the crowd or if you had one in mind, we can kind of go from
Yeah.
there.
So earlier somebody asked a good question and I kind of gave an answer, but you and I can talk about it together. They were asking about Link from Legend of Zelda, and I kind of gave two answers. I said they could probably either be the key about this little exercise and game is to take the key aspects of somebody and to try to turn them into a character. Obviously, it's never going to be a one for one, unless it's like they're a bender and then they'll just be a bio user, right? So for Link, something that I thought about is that he could either be a melee sword ink fighter, or he could actually be a special agent because of all of the gadgets that he uses, the grappling hooks and the bombs and all that kind of stuff. So I actually would lean towards a special agent for somebody like Link. I don't know what you thought, um, but we can kind of maybe just think about it and put
Yeah,
a
you could,
smattering.
we could do Link is interesting because I could also see him being an ink fighter, like an element, like a um an ink fighter who you could make his master sword a
Right, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
yeah. So is that who you want to build?
Yeah, let's build Link.
Okay.
Um I
So
personally, my vote would actually be a special agent because of the gadgets.
okay.
But it depends on, I guess it depends on what iteration of Link you guys are thinking of, because he could kind of fall into two categories. I personally would probably put him as a special agent, just because of the number of gadgets that he has. But I don't know, RC. I'll leave it up to you. What do you
I'll
think?
let you let's go with let's go with the one that you feel is like, okay, this is the one that makes most sense. Like this one, like what's your gut tell you?
I think that he's a special agent.
Okay.
Um,
Let me get a image of him for this. Address. Okay, so I'm gonna put it here. Let's make sure this works. Let's see. Yep, there he is. Okay, so we've got this. So we've got Link set up now. Can you guys see that? Hold on. I've got so many windows. Okay. So let's go back and let's go back and fill him out. So um, character name Link, and Gear of Destiny will just use as the Triforce. So Link is what, like 16, 18, something like that.
yeah.
So let's say he's 18, male. I know his height kind of varies, but we're just gonna say he's like 5'6" or something. I know he's relatively short, but and then the weight and stuff doesn't matter for right now. And then the background, we know who Link is, right? We know who. But if we were to write Link's background in Flux Fantasy, we'd have to write a specific background for Link to make it match the universe. But we could put that here. So Karma specialty, you said special agent, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'd pick a special agent, and then
And
study.
so this is where it actually gets hard, I think. Um I would think that because we're like really locking into the like gadget part, but he uses the gadgets, he doesn't invent the gadgets. So that doesn't mean he's not a tinker. I would actually put him as a scout. That's what I would put him as. Because he's not inventing the gadgets, he's just using the gadgets, you know?
Okay,
That's what I would put him as. And he also doesn't talk, and he's kind of sneaky. You know.
that's true. I could see that, or I think there's an argument that he could be a disruptor too. But
Sure.
I could see Scout. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Let me know if
Let
you
us
guys
know
have some.
your thoughts. I
I'll
don't
start.
know. Maybe I'm also thinking about his clothes a little bit. I feel like Scout would, like, I don't know. I feel like a Scout would wear the saggy hat. I don't know. Oh, you don't, but you used a Breath of the Wild, so I guess he's not wearing a.
Oh, I just picked a quick one that like I was like, okay, this is the best one for a PFP. I know there's so many iterations of him, incarnations of him that you can,
Yeah.
it's like this is a Flux Fantasy one. So
Yeah.
okay, Scout. So okay, wait, hold on. We got disagreement. We've got Joe is saying disruptor. he goes into buildings and destroys pots. That's true.
He does
Uh,
fight directly a lot. I get okay.
yeah,
That's a good argument. He fights directly a lot. That's
yeah.
sort of his main. I think I'm okay. I'm swaying. I think disruptor. I
Okay,
think
let's go
maybe
with
disruptor is correct.
then. Let's go with disruptor, and then affiliation.
He works for the royalty, so that's the NKA. I would say, right?
Okay, so let's do NKA.
Which NKA, by the way,
Oh,
the
naturally,
affiliations
yeah. If you're a special agent, you basically have to work for the NKA. So
at this point, and the NKA is basically just code for an agency, right?
right.
So that's sort of where we're putting him.
Okay, and then how would his Taurus? Oh no, he's a special agent, so his special weapon would be probably like a master sword that's like charged with karmistry, or he would
Yeah,
have
it'd
like
have
special.
instead of the triangle, it would just be a circle instead.
Yeah, and I could also see him having like a bows and arrows that are karmistry,
Yeah.
which would be
Yes.
really cool.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
basically
I
any
think
of his
all of his he's just decked out in gadgets. Bombs, grappling hooks, bows
yeah.
and arrows. His like potions are like just med kits, you know. He's walking around and he's like you can hear him coming because he's like clunk clunk, you know, like with all of his like gear and stuff on.
Let's pick him some traits and flaws. Let's see. Okay, we got it. Link is good looking. Like we have to give him that. We have to give like
Every person we ever do, you always give the good looking trait to.
because only beautiful people in Fortuna, Ella. Only
Only
beautiful
beautiful
people.
people.
I'm just joking. Seriously, what should we do? Loyal. I think he's pretty
Uh,
loyal.
yeah.
Uh, honorable.
Let's see. I would say loyal and protective.
Protective, and honorable, or determined. Let's say determined.
Yeah, one of those two. I mean, he's clear.
Okay.
He's a hero's hero. You know what I mean? So it's hard to
Right.
pick.
And when
Because
when you when you do these, the way it works is that you have to pick the number of traits you pick. I think we say you pick two or three. You have to
yeah,
pick two or three flaws to match it. So you can't just be all like an amazing person without flaws to go with it. So we've got these three picked. Now we got to pick his flaws. So
yeah. He's
um
got to be tongue tied, obviously.
tongue tied, obviously. Uh let's see.
He's
He's not
probably secretive,
agreed.
and depending on which iteration, he's probably either hot headed or lovesick. I would say.
Yeah, it depends on the iteration because these others they wouldn't work unless distant is one you want to.
Oh, distant. Yeah, I could see
Yeah,
that.
then
Distant.
I think would be the case. Um, yeah, I'm seeing the comments. Joe's mentioning the uh, like that's where like you go to probably the lovesick version. If you go with the '90s cartoon Link, that's probably the one that you're talking about. Um, uh, Corn, you can pick as many traits as you want, but
Well,
you
up to 5.
up to five. Excuse me, up to five. But you have to pick five flaws to go with it. You can't just have so anytime you pick one, you up to five, you have to pick a flaw to go with it.
You automatically get a trait and a flaw from your affiliation. So there's 4 left that you could choose from. Now you could say none. I don't have any more. I just have the one from my affiliation. But or you could just say, okay, maybe just one more. But however many you pick, you also have to have a flaw to go with it.
So so we've got those. Do we want to go into the basic powers?
I think let's move on. Let's
Okay.
pick another person.
Okay. So and just so you guys can see so this is the result. So we've got his profile built out, and if you're playing in Flux Fantasy, you can actually once you've created your character, you can download this and save this profile and re-upload it as you play, and it saves all your like as you add more merits and um, different stats updates, it saves them, and you can re-upload it
Mhm.
when you play. All right, so we're gonna do one more character. Um,
Why
so
don't
we
you pick a character, RC?
okay, let's do
Pick one I know though. Otherwise, I won't be any help.
pick one that you know. Okay. Oh boy.
What about like a superhero? You want to do a superhero?
We could do a spell. We could just. I mean, you. Oh, don't you love Spider Man?
I do love Spider-Man.
Or
I
do you
love
want to do
Spider.
Robin?
Ooh,
We haven't done Robin yet.
let's do Robin. Yeah, let's
Okay.
do
So
Robin.
Robin, Tim Drake, right? That's what
Yeah, Tim Drake's Robin because it depends.
yeah, it
it
depends.
will force our hand.
Okay, so Tim Drake. Okay,
Okay,
Tim Drake. And so first, what is he? So what would he be? I think we're personally okay. I'll let you. You're the Tim Drake expert, so I'll let you pick.
there's two choices, basically. I think one is that he's again a melee user where he uses his bow staff, or like an ink fighter, or a special agent because of the gadgets, the that kind of stuff. Uh, I think that he's probably more of a special agent. Personally, Tim Drake's version of Robin, I think, is more of a special agent.
I agree. I'd have to say that that he's a special agent. So we'll do another. We have another special agent. Now
Now,
we got to pick.
if you were talking about like I don't know, Jason Todd, I don't think he'd be a special agent. We'd probably be an ink fighter, you know. So it just sort of depends. I think that he's probably an operative. You know, he's making the plans.
Agreed.
He's leading the team. This one's easy. This one, it was almost no challenge here. His affiliation is obviously with his group, so that's like the NKA, you know. Um,
And what kind of special weapons would he have then?
well, he's got his bow staff, you know,
Yeah.
that's sort of his signature thing. It probably has some sort of like I think in the comics it's most often like electrified, so that's probably the karma, you know, like an electric bow staff. He's got his, you know, batarangs. He's got the grappling hook. Those are all scout weapons, you know.
Okay. And then now we got to pick his traits and flaws. So you know him best. So I'm going to let you. You are the Tim Drake expert.
That's because I am Tim Drake. Um, let's see. For Tim Drake, I'd probably say he is calm and observant.
Observant.
Honestly, a lot of these would fit him. I mean, obviously he's dependable, he's handy, you know, but I'm trying to think of like his main groups. Um and probably adaptable. I would say those are the three that he is.
Okay. And then we got his flaws.
So I would say insecure, um, paranoid, and secretive would be the ones that I would pick.
Okay. And then let's see if I picked. I think I picked the right ones here. And then we can see what it is. How's that?
He is a great detective. That's sort of why I was picking the ones that I was picking were sort of um, his main features.
Yeah.
He looks great.
It was fun, right? So this was
Yeah,
you can see now we just by coincidence we had two special agents in this, but I was trying to find characters that I know that Ella. It's like we I can't believe we hadn't um, done Robin yet, and
I know.
it was just we just wanted to show that the
And you
flexibility of
could
the character.
argue for other things. You know, you could argue that they're bio users or ink fighters because of the martial arts. You know, you could argue a different way.
Right.
But this is just kind of what we think. You know, we're certainly not. somebody who's writing Tim Drake like in the comic books might think differently, and so you might think differently. But this is a good way that if you're like stuck, if you're like, oh, I do not know how to make a character, like I don't want to make a new character, I don't know what to do, go and find your favorite character, find Link, find Robin, find Zelda, find your favorite character and bring them into the world, and then change the traits about them and change their name, and then boom, you've got a new character, right? So this is just sort of a fun exercise of how you can best create characters and some powers. I hope that you've got some more inspiration now about the powers that you can get when you are using a character, and the different groups and how they are very distinct. Always be mindful of how your character is using their karmistry, because that's really what defines them, at least in Flux Destiny. So
That's right.
yeah.
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was like a fun. I always love when we get to do this, when we get to kind of go over the whole, the whole. Let me see where I can put us back to. I lost my control here. Where did it go? All these buttons. I'm trying to find where did it go. Like I have it. Hold on. I got to find the button to make us go back to you and me. Hold on. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay, sorry. There we go. It's like I have to have all these windows open to like throw it back on the screen. So I sometimes lose the panel despite that. So anyways, that was fun. I love being able to build those characters. The character sheet is totally free online. You can play with it. You can put in your own. You can play with different characters and try to build them out. I think that's a lot of fun. Just a reminder that we have. Or you want to tell them the events for the rest of the day? Again?
Yeah. So we've got at now I'm losing my spot. At 5 p.m. Central Time, we've got the Flux Destiny Mixer that's going to be in the Discord, and then at 6:30, we've got our Flux Destiny updates, which is also going to be in the Discord. And then we've got the Flux Destiny roleplay game, which we're going to be doing at 7 p.m. Central. And that's going to be back here on YouTube. And like I said, if you have not gotten the one player game yet, and you want to play along, you are going to want to get that before that live so that you can play along, or you could kind of see the secrets beforehand, so that RC has not played this game yet. So when he stumbles into things, you're going to want to know kind of what secrets are on the other side, because we're just going to do a demo version of it. So yeah, I hope that you have fun the rest of the night. Oh, and by the way, we are going to unveil something tonight that I am very excited about. It's very quick. It's just a teaser, but I'm excited to tell you guys about it. So you're going to want to be at tonight's event if you can. So I think that's it.
That's it. And below, if you're new, you can see below links.fluxdestiny.com. That'll take you to if you're ever lost in the Flux Destiny universe, this is like the central place to go. Like this will take you, like this is literally like the what is it, the me lobby or whatever, like in okay, that's what this is. So this will take you everywhere from there, so be sure to check that out. And then also please check out our patreon.com/fluxdestiny, and also the shop where you can buy the one player game that she was talking about, very well rated, and also all our other books and stuff you can get from there at shop.fluxdestiny.com. And you can also download the character creator guide for free. I'm so glad you guys had so much fun with this. It's always fun doing this, and we just like entertaining you guys and giving you some escape from the real world. Have a great evening, or excuse me, evening. Great day, and we will see you afternoon, and we will see you guys at the next event, and we'll talk soon. Bye.